Hello, greetings. Welcome back to another Star Study episode of yours truly, King Jacob, live on the Chatterbox with King Jacob. And tonight we have another sensational guest. We're going to talk about the levels of education, why it's so important, in not just our community, but all communities across the globe. We have none other than Dr. Cynthia Smith. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing? And thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome, man. Shout out to your wonderful publicist Desiree for definitely plugging the interview in. She's definitely great at what she does. So shout out to her as well. So
Absolutely.
before we jump into everything that you have accomplished, what you have going on, and how you got started, who is Dr. Cynthia Smith?
Oh my goodness, that's a loaded question. You sure you're ready for it?
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
Dr. Cynthia Smith is the educated entrepreneur, the educated educator, and I wholeheartedly, believe in education. I believe in communities that support education, and I encourage everyone to be educated. So that's who Dr. Cynthia Smith is.
Oh wow. Now that's a loaded answer. That's what I'm talking about. Yes. So with believing in education, of course, like most people that I know that are really believers in achievers and accomplishers of education, they have family jewels. They are spiritually driven, and so let us know about your background, where you come from. Who instilled this in you? Because somebody had to instill a lot of those great qualities in you for you to get to the next plateau in life.
Right. So I would I like to always be so transparent about where I come from because everybody I believe has a story and everybody's story is unique. So the moments that I thought that my story, like why would somebody be interested in it, it became a story. So even right now, I have a documentary that's coming out on December the 10th that will be released on various platforms about my story. But for education, for me, I believe it pretty much stemmed from just my family members and being around them. So I grew up on two sides of town, two different families. I had my mom's side, my dad's side, and education. It it's always been the thing to do with my families on both sides, as far as like they all have always said, get an education, get an education, get an education. But I was blinded because I didn't know how to get an education or what that meant to get an education. Because even starting college, I had idea and a drive to go to college because I'm like, oh, I'm so always to get an education. So when I went to college, I had no idea about financial aid. I had no idea about scholarships. I had, no idea on what guidance or roadmap that I needed to take. In my brain, I was like, oh, well, go to college for something that I enjoy doing. I changed my major like 3 or 4 times. And initially, I wasn't even going to college. So I was going to go get a technical or a trade certificate. But just seeing like my family, the struggles that they had, I had family members that could not even read. Like I used to read mail for my family members. And so for me, I tell anybody, you don't have to be an educator, but I truly believe that whatever you do, you should get educated in. So that's my whole stance on being the educated educator, is to encourage people to be educated. If you're going to sell clothes, get educated in selling clothes. If you're going to sell shoes, be educated in selling shoes. So for me, I had to be educated in being educated, educating myself, because that's how I got to where I am, meeting people along the way that gave me guidance and helped me with understanding what is the difference between an AA and an AS degree, minimum things like that. What knowing and understanding what is a full-time scholar, a full-time class load, and a part-time class load. All those things is what continuously had drove me to understanding, okay, you know what, I think I got it now. So I went on bachelor's, master's, doctoral degree. And I just like to say, like, it's okay today. I was telling someone today that it's okay to reap your benefits. I'm reaping my benefits now. I work really hard for them. And, not to get that confused with being as if you're, bragging, but at the same time, it's so important because, like I said, everybody has a story. Everybody's story is unique.
Okay. Well, wow, loaded, loaded. So you're very educated, doctor degree. You started from one point, and then you really reached that maximum point. So you maximize, everything that you need to know about education. And of course, we learn about education every day because it's something that you never stop learning about. It changes all the time.
Yes.
So for you, um, once you understood what was going on in the school system and the things that you think could be better as far as the kids and for even the understanding of the parents, because a lot of them don't understand.
Hmm.
I know several parents that told me when they changed the way um, people learn how to do math, parents was really confused and
Absolutely.
didn't understand. And so for you, you know, since you have so many levels and understand, or should I say, understand so many levels of how education has transitioned from the way we learn, and now it's a new way of learning. How hard was that for you as an educator to get parents to really understand and really to get the children to understand? Because a lot of children didn't understand it.
Right. So when I always say get educated, I'm sorry, I always say get educated and win. But when I always think when I say I encourage individuals, families, and students to be educated and people around me and be an expert in your particular field, a lot of people confuse that. I sort of say this as a disclaimer with, me being the smartest person in every subject in every area. So I'm not, but I am enough to utilize my resources. So with the standards changing, and they change, ever changing so much in Florida. I mean, I don't know where you are, but in Florida, we have this governor, and he just, he changes standards and curriculum adoption, just like you probably take showers at night,
Mhm.
so it changes. But what I always like to encourage people and tell parents is that use the resources around you. So yes, the curriculum has changed. I had a parent just last night had posted that she's gonna need some help with her helping her children do their homework, and they're like in elementary school, like first and third grade. So I always encourage parents that we're not asking you as educators to be the expert. We're asking you to utilize the resources around you so that you can be expert in that area to help your child. So meaning that, yeah, I can't help my child. My son is a senior. I cannot help him with calculus, but I can provide him the resources to help him with the calculus, instead of just letting him fail, or instead of me saying to him, go do the work, and then he's getting frustrated and he's still failing. We have to, as parents, because I'm a parent, but also as an educator, encourage parents to utilize the resources that they have in the community. There are a lot of free resources, because that could possibly be somebody watching saying, well, yeah, but it costs. So the tutoring companies, a lot of them do cost, but there are a lot of resources that every neighborhood have, especially with schools being Title I. There are a lot of resources that they have that they can bring into their homes, into the schools, to help children.
Okay. So the divisions of schools. I know you
Hmm.
said Title One. How
Hmm.
many divisions of schools are there. So people need to understand that there's a lot to learn about education that we have never learned.
So
You
let
know,
me, can I, yeah, let me, I don't know, where are you located? What state?
South Carolina.
South Carolina. So let me share something with you when you say divisions. So in Florida, and I'm particularly in Jacksonville, you have public school and you have private school and you have charter school. Okay.
Right, right, right.
So public school, obviously everybody afforded that education. So it's pretty much a traditional education led by, our governor. He has the say on the adoption of the curriculum, the standards, and the testing and things of that nature, as well as charter. To a certain extent, charter abides by the public school curriculum pretty much, with private school donors, but their curriculum and education per se is pretty much guided by the under the state's law. Private school, what I own, we are responsible for getting our own private dollars to fund our schools, and so we're not governed to be under all of the specific standards of Florida. We're not governed to be under and utilize the testing. We don't do school grades. We are a private school. A lot of parents do not know that school choice exists and what it actually means. So right now, I like to encourage parents to be familiar with their state's school choice laws, because every state has the ability to have some sort of a school choice or a magnet for their students.
All right, we're back.
Mhm. Yeah.
So when you say, like, I definitely understand the public schools, the private schools, the charter schools.
Hmm.
Um, so when people go to a Christian academy,
Hmm.
does it fall under a charter school or private school?
Well, it could fall under a private school. It could fall. It very well could fall under private school, especially if it's a religious based.
Okay, okay, okay.
Mhm.
So based on how they kind of changed their curriculum a little bit, not saying they changed it a lot, but based on how they may change it a little bit to really meet the needs of the student body.
Mhm.
Because some people come from public schools and they don't like the way public schools teach. They
Mhm.
don't like the way public schools set up. So
Mhm.
versus the charter schools and the private schools, have you seen the curriculum change, um, and be more, should I say, more helpful to the student if they attend charter schools or private schools?
Oh, that's a loaded question, because I own a private school again, so I'm going to speak from my experiences from public consulting, at being a consulting with charter, and now owning a private school. I just think though, being an educator, just like children and adults, we all tie our shoe very different. So what works for a particular child in a curriculum does not work for all. It's not a one fit all approach. So at my school, I mean, we actually have and utilize a curriculum that's been around for years, which is McGraw-Hill and HMH, which is and also Stenhouse Publishing. So those companies are reputable companies, and I pull from them based on my students' needs and the way that our curriculum and schedule is set up. All of our students have the opportunity to learn at an individualized pace. But a lot of times in public and charter schools, they don't have the autonomy to do that because of the class size, and the amendments with those laws. But again, I just think that when I read about different educational procedures, that what fits best for that's why I tell parents you need to know your children, because the social setting is important, as well as the educational setting that children could be and are placed in. So I just think that when, parents are identifying a school, they need to take into account their children's needs and abilities.
Okay, 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 okay. Loaded answer for a loaded question. Okay,
Yes.
okay. So now this is very interesting to me, and you're a very interesting person, and
Thank you.
we definitely need more of you
Thank you.
in the education system. So I
Hmm.
want to ask you this: the political education laws
Hmm.
that stem from the private school, the charter school, and the public school.
Hmm.
Would you say that public schools get the brass of more of the political form when it comes to educational laws, or is it the same across the board?
Oh, it's definitely not the same across the board. So loaded question. I don't know how much of my bio that I which bio you have or you read, but I ran for, excuse me, for two political seats. One of the seats that I ran for at the time that I ran for it, it's a great question. But at the time that I ran for it, I had to speak a lot about education, and I had to really like publicly share my beliefs on what I would support if I if I had won that seat. Well, with both of them, pretty much. But the first seat that I ran for, I was like pro. Public school education. Every child should get a public school education. I believe in public school education, and I still do because I cannot say that I don't believe in it. I'm one of the greatest supporters of public schools because I'm a product of it. So again, I believe that parents should put their children where their what best fits their child's needs. Period. I'm a proponent of that. I'm not a proponent of sending your child only to private because I own one. So I want to be very clear about that. But when I ran again for the second time, I learned and understood what school choice scholarships are and what they do. So they're funded by private school donors. And if you look at the Florida news, there is a lot of conversation out there now about pretty much trying to get rid of school choice scholarships because they're saying they're not great, like they're not made for they're made for the upper echelon of children to receive those scholarships. Those scholarships used to be income-based scholarships. So it was you had to have a certain income level to receive those. Now you don't have to have the income to receive those. Regardless of, I feel like as an educator, it is my duty to make sure that my community knows that their children are eligible for a scholarship and that they need to and they could find a reputable private school that would fit their child's best needs and give them the education that they deserve. So if I was in a position of a political office, that is what I will be pushing, that the find the educational system that is best for your child, not trying to demean a school choice scholarship for a child, because again, there are great private schools out here in the world that offer a benefiting education to children. So there are pros and cons with private schools. So there's not a lot of the recommendations from the the political side don't always transfer over to the private school side, just some of the things. So the accountability is a big deal. So a lot of political people they lead off of the accountability piece, using it as a con to not send their child to private school. But again, if you find a reputable school, and that goes back to parents, and when I say resources and research and getting educated, that's the parents that is the parents' responsibility to do due diligence before they send their child to somebody's house, just like they would to at someone's school. So I don't support political figures when they say things like abolishing school choice application or abolishing any type of an educational system, period. Because even when we had COVID, a lot of schools went to online learning We had to do that. That was not the best for some children, and it was the best for some children. And some children are still utilizing online and never return to a brick and mortar location. So it's the same way with school choice, just another level of providing education to children.
Mm, loaded answer. Love it. Love it. Love it.
Mhm.
So I just want to tell you what I have seen
Okay.
in South Carolina. Then I'm gonna go back to Florida because I used to live in Fort Lauderdale for 6 years.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So from the athletic standpoint of view, um, I have seen rich white people
Mm-hmm.
say a young black man got in some trouble in public school. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
they they said, "Oh, he got in trouble. What you mean he got in trouble?" And they put him out of school. Oh, can you get me in contact with his parents? Oh, can I see what's going on? I said, oh. Then I hear such and such is at private school. I said, man, ain't that like 92.8%, a white school and a private school, and then as I look around now these days, more and more young black men go to private school. And I said, so his parents have to pay for that? He's like, oh, don't worry about that. Yeah, all of them rich white people on that alumni board. Oh yeah, it's taken care of. It's taken care of, and they gonna make sure that if
Mm-hmm.
the parents ain't got a good job, they gonna make sure the parents got a good job as well. So don't
Mm-hmm.
even worry about it. And so, from from that political standpoint of view, economics,
Mm-hmm.
money is power, and power is priceless. We all know that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what is your take on that? Because I know you got a word for us.
Oh, so I am the first free private STEM school in the east side of Jacksonville. We are 100% African American, Black owned business. I love that. That's history. That is fact. I don't lead with that because I've been an educator for over 20 years and I've been in rich white schools publicly and I've been in very poor black schools publicly. I've consulted charter schools that are owned by white people but 100% black. So the demographic of black and white, Hispanic, I've been a part of it. I've seen it. There is definitely a difference in the buildings that I've gone in. There is a difference in the teaching methods. There is a difference in the curriculum. There's a difference in the social setting. There's definitely a difference, and so we cannot ignore that monkey in the room. We can't ignore that. But I want to say that, or the elephant in the room. I'm just all over the place right now with that thought. But the point that I'm making is that me owning the first black free private STEM school in Jacksonville, there is definitely challenges. I'm gonna say that I'm in a predominantly African American neighborhood. There are definitely some challenges. It's not easy owning a private school. Private school, like you said, the difference, number one, that you just said was that you've been in these schools and they're 98% white and they have an alumni board that is billionaires. That's typically how private schools go. So it's not typical that an African American woman is owning a private school and sustaining the private school with top test scores, and 100% of the students are academically achieving at meeting or exceeding their educational academics. That's just very rare. And I'm not trying to pat myself on the back because that is my students that's performing. Those are my parents that's supporting what it is that I'm doing. I'm saying that to say that the difference becomes because the scholarships pays for a percentage. It doesn't pay 100% of a child's tuition at my school. Okay. So who's going to make the other difference up for the student at my school? There's a $7,000 difference. Who's going to make that difference? I don't have an alumni board of rich white billionaires on it. My job is to try to go out and connect with rich white billionaires and organizations and corporations, then try to get them to believe that this first Black free private STEM school in the east side of Jacksonville that they should support. It's not an easy task. So there's just a disparity amongst that. It's definitely a disparity, and so because there is a difference, it affects, and it can affect the child all the way. Not so it can affect the overall program, but even more specific down to the specific child. Because if I didn't go out and make these partnerships and fundraise as hard as I am, then I'm responsible for making up that difference on the curriculum. I'm responsible for making up the difference to ensure that academic achievement is happening in my school. I'm responsible for making sure that my students are learning and understanding the concepts of STEM and the programs that that public schools are offering and charter schools are offering, making sure that I can stay afloat to compete with those schools. Again, you don't see a lot of Black owned African American schools that has 100% accountability across the board, parental accountability, academic accountability, employment retention. You don't see that. So if you ask anybody that's a part of my program, or whether it be an employee, a parent, or a student, because that is the puzzle piece to what makes Minds of the Future whole, they'll tell you that accountability is my number one priority. You cannot send your child to my school if you do not have accountability. The flip side of that makes a difference, and this is my last point, is the parents. So I talked a lot about parents. You just said, what happens if little Johnny mom don't have the money to send him to that 98% white school with these billionaires? They have the money on their board to pay the difference. And guess what? Mom don't have a job, but mom can chill. A mom don't have to do nothing. So they just want your child. They're just going to take your child and take care of your child. Make sure they play sports, maybe run them, get a couple of scholarships for them, all that stuff. You understand what I'm saying? So when we talk about accountability with my particular school, I encourage and I make sure that my parents are accountable. And I tell them, a lot of times what you come over here with, you're not going across the water with. You're not going to do that. And it's sometimes it's difficult because I am the African American. So African American female talking to an African American parent, sometimes that can be different because we do not think like, oh my goodness, like it's sometimes a respect level, because sometimes with African American people, we tend to take a word of what we are normally seeing, which are white people leading and Black people pretty much following. And that's just what it is, unfortunately. But it's not always the case, because I try to encourage parents that, and let them know that accountability is a must and professionalism is definitely going to happen, because we're so used to seeing and at the end of the day, African American people, we're the history of education. If we take it all the way back to slavery, we were educating white kids historically. We are the educators.
And I can tell you how, because that place that we call the White House,
Absolutely.
it was built by a brother who had a pencil and a ruler.
Absolutely.
And that's how he drew the blueprints.
Absolutely.
And no calculations of it. Just with a pencil and a ruler. So, and he was from England. So, he was like the first Black architect, from
Absolutely.
overseas that worked in America. So you're definitely right about that. Now, I do want to say this right here. The economic value of education in America. So when I lived in Fort Lauderdale, you had Pompano Beach, you had Deerfield Beach, you had Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood Beach, Coral Springs. So um, they said, well, everybody get educational grant money. Maybe so, but the urban poverty communities get the last crumbs of the educational money.
Mhm.
Now,
If any, if
if
any.
you're if you're in a place, right, if any, if you're in a place like Coral Springs, Florida,
Hmm.
you know, a how could I say, the average home in Coral Springs, Florida, costs about $550,000.
Hmm.
You know, 350,000 to 550,000.
Hmm.
And so, a lot of people out there are, registered nurses, doctors, lawyers.
Hmm.
They own real estate firms, and own, insurance firms, and you know, um, football coaches that's been coaching in those high end schools for a long time. So I just want to, like, you know, a high school football coach that can make $227,000 a year. You know, um, hey, listen, somebody
Yeah,
got some money somewhere.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so a lot of parents, I tell them, you have to be vocal. You need to be at the school board meetings. You need to be at the city council meetings, the county council meetings. Your voice matters because your kid goes to that school, or your kids go to that school,
Hmm.
and so they work for you. So you really have to voice your opinion, and if and you have to go down to your local chambers of commerce and see what's going on,
Hmm.
because things that's based on education in the state that you live in, they have documents that come to every year, and they just be laying out there, and nobody ever go and pick them up. And so
Hmm.
you really have to be vocal, because this is your child's future. And
Hmm.
so for you, listen, man, STEM program, science, technology, you
Engineering and math.
engineering and math. Listen, man. So I shake my head because I'm just only imagining if we had that when we was growing up. But what I did learn how to do, since I'm a country boy, agriculture was a big part of
Hmm.
upbringing.
Yeah, we have a garden at the school as well.
Yeah, yeah. So, and then I tell people at Clemson University, if you are black or brown student and you have a degree in agriculture, they send you down to the Future Farmers of America. They help you get started in anything you want to do, whether you want to grow chicken houses and
Hmm.
become a chicken farmer, or whether you want to be a farmer and have corn and wheat and barley and stuff like that. They they help you find up to 10 acres to get started. Make sure you get some business grant money, and they get you started. So there's a lot of programs out there for minorities. But I tell parents, you just have to really research and see what's going on. If you don't understand, get with somebody that does understand, and that would
Yep.
be you. That would be you. So the parents at your school got a jewel. I don't know if they use you for the resource that they supposed to, but they got a
Yeah.
diamond in the rough. And
Thank
cause
you.
you cause when you can talk about the STEM program, you can talk about
Political.
agriculture. You can talk about how students should natural resources. I have a friend out in New Orleans, and she tests water, and she told me that she was like, I just wish my black and brown people understood how many jobs are in the water field.
Yep.
The water profession. It's
Mm-hmm.
so many jobs. You got these big plants that pay engineers to test the water, and
Hmm.
and, and they and they make 175,000 and up. I'm talking about just starting out. So you really have a thing that's going on. So now this is what else I want to talk to you about. So I say this to church folks, and I say this to people in education. I say, I asked a college professor. I said, man, out of every private school that you've seen or you visited, or you spoke at, or charter schools you spoke at, private, in public schools you spoke at, I said, man, do you think the public schools is under the 501c3 law? He said, why you ask me that? I said, because I'm going to make a point for you. I said, let me tell you something. When you see a private school just build and build, and like, I know private schools that got cafeterias that cost $1.4 million.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So he said, well, I said, man, because I tell you, when it comes to private schools and charter schools, and even predominant bigger white churches, they are all under that 501c3 nonprofit law. It's so many educational grants with that range from 5,000 all the way up to 50 million. So it's so many educational grants. And I said, even if you look in the black community, the black churches that's under LLC, a lot of them struggle. But the black churches you see under the 501c nonprofit law, and those churches that have 3-4 grant writers that work for the church, those churches build and build and build. And so with your program, do you think that matters when it comes to private schools and charter schools?
If it matters of how much you're spending for the building piece of it, or you're talking about the program piece of it?
The program, and maybe the school don't have is under the 501c3 nonprofit law, but maybe they have a nonprofit inside of the school that solely work for the school. And so what I'm asking you is, does that matter when it comes to keeping the structure going, adding new curriculum, adding new programs,
I just think that when, I say get educated and win, with private schools, they are often led by a founder. I'm a founder of my private school.
Okay.
I believe that you have to understand your finances, whereas charter and public, they're regulated by your actual district. So they're giving you a budget and a certain amount, and you have to make sure that you're within those limits of your spending, because you don't get any more once they have divvied that money out. So for private, we have to be mindful, because every dollar that comes in with private, we had to go out and get it, unless you have some donors that's giving you millions and billions of dollars. Now, every state, I believe, have private schools that are just the elite of the elite, meaning they're just well known. They have supporters behind them that have billions of dollars. But for a school such as mine, where I have to go out and get my money and touch my money and make sure that this money is appropriated, it's appropriated the correct way, I watch every single dollar. Again, it's a puzzle piece. My students, my parents, and my staff, they understand. So if I say we're doing a food truck fundraiser every other Friday, and we trying to get, parents and the community come support this food truck so that we can have activity money for our students, that's an account. What helped me is that I was a bookkeeper for the public school system for 2 years, and they're accounting for the district. So I left the district with experiences. I was a clerk. So I understood, secretary. So I mean, I know how important it is for me to have a secretary in my business, and what their role should be like, and what they should do with student records and their interactions with parents. I was a bookkeeper for the school district, and so I understand how to divvy up monies, understand POs and nonprofit organizations. So guess what I did? I started a nonprofit organization within my school. And so I make sure, again, that my funds are appropriated properly, and I have a CPA. A lot of times private schools, they go under real quick because
back up, Doc. Hold up, Doc. As Martin Lawrence said, stop the press. Hold on, Doc. So, a doctorate degree.
Yes.
A CPA.
No, I have a CPA. I have a
So you have one in your organization. That's what you're saying.
yes.
Okay. So you have a CPA, you have a secretary,
Yeah.
and you have an executive assistant as well.
Yes. You have to have the proper people to be a part of your organization if you're going to grow. So a lot of times, like businesses, they go under because they try to cut costs, and it makes their job harder. So if you just hire the people, then they're going to pay for themselves plus more if they're doing a job.
Man, you got listen. It's favor upon you. It's a lot of favor upon you. You know what I mean? God, God has definitely favored you to lead His babies. You know what I
Thank
mean? And so, with that being said, for anybody just to be able to take on a task like that,
you.
they it's a spiritual journey.
Hmm.
I understand the educational journey, but the spiritual journey is so deep to
Hmm.
people overlook it.
Hmm.
And so I definitely salute you for that.
Hmm.
And so as far as you, I just in my head while I'm hearing you talking, I say she got to be an author of some type.
Oh wow, you know that?
I, I'm just listening to you
Well,
talking. It's like, man,
yeah. So
we-
I have three books that I have written, and they are coming. So the documentary, all of my production on my books, they're going to be released on December the 10th. I'm having a really big world premiere event in Jacksonville on December the 10th at the WJCT Studios, which is a new studio here in Jacksonville's downtown. And a lot of people don't know what I've been working on unless they have been following me, watching interviews over the past 30 days and moving into December to talk about the things that I have been working on. But I have three books. Actually, one is completely published and on Amazon, but no one knows it's on Amazon unless they search for my name. So the first book that I wrote, and it's published on Amazon right now. It's called Black Boys to Black Men. That book was led from my dissertation, but it really talks about like my experiences and what research has put forth to say these are the stigmas and these are the things academically and it goes into how black men, I'm sorry, how black boys have grown up and they have become black men. So I go all the way back, like the historical perspective, and then I fast forward it up the more modern day, and I add in like just some of my experiences in live interviews and talking to different African American men and their take on just things that have perpetuated them in life. So that's the first book. The second book is a children's book. It's titled the name of my business, which is Minds of the Future Academy. And it's about a little girl that just really wants to go to school, an African American little girl that really wants to go to school because she sees this colorful school. But her mom works so much and she has to just go to her grandmother's house every single day. And it's just like, I got to get to school. Like, but because at children, a lot of times children, they ask and they beg for education. Children love structure, but a lot of times parents can't give it to them or are afraid to give it to them.
so
And
with the children's book. I mean to cut you off, Doc. With the children's book, did you do the illustrations yourself, or did
so
you have?
I hired an illustration, but all of my books I wrote myself. I didn't
Okay.
ghostwrite them. My illustrations, I'm talking to an illustrator because I can't draw, but I talked to an illustrator about what it is that what my vision was. So I'm very I'm a really big visionary, and I like to be involved in my work. And my last book is The Educated Entrepreneur. So I pretty much am going to be sharing and talking about my experiences as an entrepreneur. And so I believe that book is just not to discredit my other two books, because I think those all three of those books are, they serve three different purposes. But
Mm-hmm.
someone that wants to be an educator, I just believe that they need to read that book. Someone that is interested in understanding the historical perspective of education, and how the data that we hear about prison the pipeline for African American young men, and what is the result of that. That's what that book is for. And then obviously the children's book.
Mm. So Doc, I didn't. I knew you was an author, but I didn't know no. But
Yeah,
in my mind, I said it makes no sense for
yeah,
her not to be an author.
yeah.
Like she has a wealth of knowledge, and and Doc, I'm gonna tell you, I ask real tough questions on my interviews,
Yeah.
and so when I got somebody who can vibe with me, it
Yeah.
piques my interest on a whole different level.
Thank
You
you.
know what I mean? To
Thank
to
you.
to really learn more about like this book about these boys going into men and like
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
like and anybody can see that you're all female, but for you to write it from a mother's, a
Mhm,
wife,
mhm,
auntie, or sister,
mhm,
an educated
mhm,
perspective, that's a whole different type of lane. That's
mhm.
a whole different level. You
Thank
know,
you.
and that's like you putting yourself in someone else's shoes, and so you
Mhm.
had to write in the third party.
I
That
did.
yeah, yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's
Yes.
yeah, that's definitely um
Yes.
something serious. So Doc, let me ask you a question. You had what we call one the journey of greatness
Mhm.
has welcomed you. So you know, will we will we ever see an educational TV series by you?
Well, you know what? I don't know if my publicist is on and watching, but she'll answer that question. I'm hoping so. I'm definitely hoping so. I'm open to it, because I just believe that, I just believe in education, and I believe that people should take it as serious as they do any other career. Because if you think about it, everything that has every career or everything that someone has done, it always begins with education. Even starting an entry level job, you have to go through some sort of educational orientation to learn. So I definitely want to encourage and push, you know, that piece. I want to. I also do consulting, but I pretty much, because I've been working on my book, I have a lot of people that reach out to me often asking me about consulting and mentorship. So I do that. That is actually one of my businesses, to encourage people to be educated and making sure they open up businesses the right way. A lot of times people think they can't do it because of finances or just lack of being comfortable in the position that they're in. And I just encourage them. Like, I didn't wake up and say I'm going to quit my job. I didn't wake up and say I'm going to open up this school. I didn't wake up to that, but that's why I definitely will be open to a series. And my documentary can only tell so much in such a small amount of time, but it was steps that I took, and I'm willing to share that with people all on one platform, and also, take on people to see them, flourish in their journey. I had two particular, I've had the opportunity to give two businesses away from other people to allow them to, be under me and mentor them into opening up daycares and schools. But I have noticed that there's always something that has stopped them. And a lot of times, we talk about faith and having faith and just stepping out on faith, but people, they faith is only so far. It's not as far as we say it is. Oh, I want to do it. Like, I literally had faith. I woke up and I went into a meeting for a building I really, really like, and I know I couldn't afford it. And I said, listen, I only have $5,000. I can rent it from you. And if you let me rent it from you, I promise I'll flip it and I'll make some money and I'll buy it from you. So, like, you got to go in with a hunger mindset and make
Mhm.
it happen. You gotta
Right.
make it happen. So I gave these 3 steps today. One, like if you hungry and want to win, it's 3 steps. One, you have to identify your hunger. Two, you gotta work hard through the hunger. Hunger is literal that I'm speaking, but physical. If I'm real hungry and my ribs touching, I'm gonna be working so hard to try to get me some food. And then the third step, like once you done work through and you working, you gotta know when to reap your benefits. Because for me, I used to work 7 days a week. And then I would spend time with my family in between them 7 days. But even sometimes when I was spending time with my family, if they, fall asleep or go, run out and do something, guess what? I'm gonna open up a laptop and work. I'm trying. I had to make sure that when I'm reaping my benefits, my family understood. I'm sorry, when I was in my hunger, my family understood that hunger. Everybody that was rocking with me understood that hunger. I lost a lot of people when I was in my hunger. But when I say that to my mother, she said, no, they lost you. You understand what I'm saying? Because like it was to my hunger. And sometimes when, I had to understand like it's lonely at the top. I understand that. I understand that more than ever now. Lonely at the top don't mean that, like it is literal. Like it's lonely at the top because as you're elevating and working through your process of hunger, everybody's not going to understand. Everybody is not going to support. You know how many friends I had that I wanted to go out with and hang out with, and they felt like I wasn't there or acting funny, but because they probably would see me out at an event and think, oh, she had an event, she could hang out with us. No, I was out in an event trying to make some partnerships so I could bring some funding into my school so I could let people know what Dr. Smith, the educated entrepreneur, doing. But I'm not at I was not at those events just trying to, be out and hang out and take drinks and fun. No, you have to understand when you in your hunger, you is ear to the ground, feet to the ground, and you are working through your hunger. And right now, I'm happy to say I'm reaping my benefits. I'm reaping my benefits. December the 10th, I get to showcase my work. That's to me is the biggest reap of my benefits for all the work that I've done since I left my job of 16 years in 2015. I finally get to the point, and I say that with all humbleness, not being cocky, all humbleness, because it is so important to reap your benefits. I have several favorite people that I like to listen to and I like to read about, and then I just really kind of, keep me grounded is, like I will really know them personally. Tyler Perry, Oprah, Rick Ross, and Deion Sanders. Those 4 people right there, like if they're not the epitome of my thinking, Deion Sanders, a lot of people count him out and look at him. He won the game and then he reaping his benefits. You understand what I'm saying? So that is just like so important to me, like that I understand now how to reap my benefits. I had shared today on my platform on Winning Wednesday that when I first opened up my daycare after 2 years, I had bought a car, and it was a Porsche Panamera, and I would never drive it to the daycare. And I would drive it up there and I would park it around the corner and I would walk to the daycare. I would walk to my own daycare. When I got there, the staff like, how you got here, Dr. Smith? Oh, I walked. I walked because I was too afraid to reap my benefits. People have to, if you have worked through 1 and 2 of your hunger, why can't you reap your benefits? I'm going to reap every one of my benefits.
That's right. That's right, Doc. You're right. Absolutely. So, Doc, I just want to say, you
Mhm.
definitely a phenomenal person. You
Thank
you definitely inspiring, and the thing about it, when people say you acting funny,
you. Hmm.
you know, power moves results into power plays.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm. Like
I tell people all the time, man. Each day we wake up with a chance and a choice. So
hmm.
so, and people not gonna understand your journey. They ain't gonna understand your grind. They ain't gonna really understand who God has made you,
Hmm.
because
Absolutely.
who you were then and who you have become, those are
Two
two
different
different
people.
people. Two different people. So with that being said, just keep going, keep on inspiring these kids, and
Thank you.
and and and, and just and just keep being you. It's been a
Thank
wonderful
you.
Wonderful interview.
Thank you.
An interview of so much intellectual process, man. Like, listen.
Thank, thank you.
In my DJ Khaled voice, listen.
That's right.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so I appreciate you, and Ms. Benson, I appreciate you for once again
Connection.
connect me with one of your great clients. I appreciate that. So, is there anybody you want to give a shout out to, and if you could also tell people where to stay connected with you at?
Oh yeah, absolutely. drsmithjacks.com is the easiest, but the most interactive is my Instagram, which is also Dr. Smith Jacks, JAX, and I am. I invite people also, you can't follow me and not follow my businesses. Minds of the Future Academy. We're also on Instagram and Facebook as well. I encourage people. I'm constantly, posting and sharing, and just encouraging people, to be educated. I definitely want to give a shout out to my publicist for booking, making this happen because it was amazing. I probably will tell you when I saw Charter Box, I was like, oh my God, this might be tough here. But I enjoy the interviews because when you passionate about what you do, it's not an interview, you're having a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I appreciate that.
Not a problem, not a problem. So until the next time, folks, the one and only Dr. Cynthia Smith,
Yes.
Educator, world-renowned speaker,
Yes.
author, business consultant, and she's just mother of all kids, not just hers, but all kids.
Absolutely.
She loved the children. So thanks for
Absolutely.
tuning in. Until the next time, I want to say stay encouraged, be blessed, and always know that if you believe, God will guide you there. Peace and blessings.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in.
Okay.